Hi everyone. So this is my mid-month October check-in. If you watched my last video, I had quite a large TBR. And so today I'm just gonna cover some of the books that I've already read and give you my thoughts on those. Since I do have such a large TBR and, having faith in myself that maybe I'll read most of them, it just seems like a smart idea to check in as I read them rather than just do one huge review or wrap up at the end. So let me just go ahead and tell you what I've already read this month, which I will say that I've pretty much enjoyed everything that I've read and finished this month. It's all been good and spooky and thrillery, and I don't know, everything has been great so far for the month of October. So that is just so nice because it's a wonderful holiday month and I just want to have a good spooky thrillery time. The first book that I read this month, which I forgot to put on my October TBR or put it in that video that I was reading that, or I'd already read that. I'm not quite sure when I finished it. But the book that I kicked off the month with was No Exit by Taylor Adams. I read that as an ebook on my phone, which was insane in and of itself because I cannot remember the last time I read an ebook of any sort, much less on my phone. But that book was amazing. It was a thriller that takes place all in one area. So it's all like in a rest stop in the winter. All these people get snowed in, and one of the main characters, she goes out to the parking lot at some point and she sees in somebody's car a child in a cage. And so the whole rest of the book is her figuring out who the heck has a child in their cage in the parking lot. And who are these people that she's snowed in with at this rest stop, and what she's going to do about her discovery. There's so much that happens. There was one plot twist that was pretty early on that literally, I'm telling you guys, I was reading it on my phone in the kitchen in between like doing stuff, doing whatever chores I need to be doing at that time. And I literally, my stomach dropped down to my knees and I had to shut off my phone because it's kind of like where a chapter ended. It kind of left you with like this cliffhanger before the next chapter started. And I just had to turn off my phone and live with that feeling for a little bit because I had things I had to do anyway. And I was like, no, I cannot start the next chapter now. Let me just ruminate on this and like let the excitement build to find out what happens next. It was just crazy. And it had quite a few moments like that in the book where your stomach kind of falls, or mine did. My stomach would just kind of fall. And I'd be like, oh my God, what is she gonna do now? What are they gonna do now? It was just a crazy, fast-paced book. And it was made even more interesting that it all just takes place in one place. It's one setting throughout the entire book almost. And it was just incredibly good. I finished it in no time, despite the fact that I was reading it in my most hated form to read books. I don't like reading ebooks, but it was fine. It was fine. I didn't mind it at all. Now, the next book that I finished this month, which I had planned on, was Margaret Atwood's The Testaments, which is the sequel to Handmaid's Tale. This was a great book. I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads. It kept my interest throughout the whole time. Pretty much the whole premise of this is there's 3 main characters, 3 female characters. One is born in Canada and isn't familiar at all with the world of Gilead and like how women are treated. Like, she's familiar with it, but she didn't grow up in it. She grew up in regular old Canada where they treat women like human beings. And the other one, the next character, is a woman who was around. She was older and she was around prior to Gilead, but now she's like this really high up figure and leader in a leadership type position in Gilead. And then the other character is a girl who grew up from her birth in the land of Gilead, so she knows no other way, but it's kind of like her figuring out how she feels about basically the world that she's grown up in. And it's just, I don't know, it's a great book. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the storyline and the characters. I did have one character that I preferred to read from, so not all of them were equally interesting to me, but that just might be It's just the me thing, I think. I mean, when I was in it, in a certain character's perspective, I enjoyed it and it was fine and great. But there was one or two characters where I just kind of wanted to go back to them more often. But again, I think that was a me thing. But I really enjoyed this book. And would I recommend it? Yes, absolutely. If you like The Handmaid's Tale, definitely pick this up. I really enjoyed this book. Gives you a lot to think about. And just, I don't know. It gives you a lot to think about. I'll leave it at that. Let's see. The next book that I finished, which I realize now is like a short story, not really a book, but it's a short story in a book form, is Blankie by Keelan Patrick Burke. And there was only, like 74 pages in this. So this was like a really quick read. I finished it in no time. And I really think, despite being so short, that it was a complete story. This was a pretty spooky little book about a guy whose baby died, which caused a separation of him and his wife, as grief will do. You know, sometimes it splits people up. But then one evening, he goes into, he hears a noise, and he goes into his daughter's old room, and lying in the middle of the floor is Blankie. And so the story just kind of takes off from there. I don't want to give away too much because it is so short, but the story centers around Blankie and his dead daughter. And I will say the end kind of had a twist to it that I didn't see coming, but that's not saying much because I tend to not see things coming, which is really great for me, because I get surprised a lot more probably than other people. My husband always gives me a hard time about that, especially with shows. He's like, you didn't see that coming? And no, I never see anything coming. I am just so ignorant to things being foretold most of the time. But this had a pretty twisty end that I enjoyed. Fast-paced, spooky, definitely kept my interest. And if you're wanting a little bit of scare, but not a big commitment, then Blankie is the way to go. So the last book that I just finished reading so far this month was My Lovely Wife by Samantha Downing. And I picked this up because I think I was looking up thrillers or something one evening on Goodreads and just comparing reviews, reading what people were saying, and trying to figure out what was like hugely popular and thrilling right now. And this popped up. And then since then, I've seen it in a lot of people's videos. So apparently this was a pretty good choice. But this is about a wife and husband team who kill together. This was pretty good. I really like reading this from, the husband's perspective. You really get into his mind and what his life is like. And really, like, from all outward appearances, him and his wife are a pretty regular looking couple. Like, so regular, they're just basically boring. Except for this one thing that they share together. And can I just take a moment and say this cover is gorgeous. I really love this shiny element of the knife and her seeing her reflection. I don't know. This was always just like lovely to pick up in and of itself just because the cover was so nice. But yeah, this book was great. I think I gave this one on 4 stars on Goodreads as well. So if you're wanting a thriller, killer type book, then I would pick this up. I mean, I enjoyed all of my books that I read. If I had to choose a favorite that I've read so far this month, it was the ebook, No Exit by Taylor Adams. If you're going to pick up any of these books, definitely pick up that one. And if you're looking for scary, thrillery, then definitely, if you're into thrillers, My Lovely Wife is another good one that I would definitely pick up. So either one of those, I mean, if you're wanting to be thrilled this October, get those and read them. Hopefully I can get a lot more read this month, although I'm already pretty happy with what I have read. Again, I don't think I'm going to finish my whole TBR, but that remains to be seen. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. Let me know what you're reading this month, and I'll see you all again soon.